3 people died on a cruise ship in the middle of the Atlantic. The culprit wasn't norovirus, wasn't a rogue wave, wasn't the buffet, it was a disease you almost exclusively associate with hiking in the American Southwest. Hantavirus. On a cruise ship. That sentence should not be possible. Hantavirus is one of those pathogens that sounds like science fiction until it isn't. It lives in rodents, mice, rats, voles, without making them sick at all. The animals shed it in their urine, droppings, and saliva. You disturb contaminated dust, breathe it in, and if those particles carry the virus, it is now inside you. No handshake required. No cough. Just air. Here's what makes hantavirus genuinely unusual: it doesn't spread person to person. Which means every single victim got it from the same source, an animal reservoir. On a ship in the middle of the ocean. That's not just a medical emergency. That's a detective story with very few good suspects. Ships and rodents have been inseparable since humans first tied logs together and called it transport. Rats crossed oceans with every civilization that ever built a fleet. Modern cruise ships are marvels of engineering, but they're also floating ecosystems, cargo holds, kitchens, ventilation shafts, thousands of hidden corridors where a mouse can build a comfortable life and never once pay for their ticket. The variant responsible in the Americas, hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, carries a case fatality rate of 30 to 40%. For comparison, seasonal influenza kills fewer than 1 in 1,000. HPS fills the lungs with fluid as capillaries break down. The immune system, doing its absolute best, essentially drowns the patient in its own response. It's the fire brigade arriving and hosing down the house. A cruise ship is, atmospherically speaking, a nightmare scenario for airborne pathogen control. Shared ventilation systems. Enclosed cabins with recirculated air. Thousands of people cycling through the same dining rooms, elevators, and corridors over consecutive days. The vessel becomes less a ship and more a very expensive petri dish with shuffleboard. Containment, once a virus has found its footing, is genuinely hard. What makes this outbreak significant is that hantavirus was not on anyone's cruise ship risk checklist. Norovirus, yes, there are entire international protocols for it. Legionella in water systems, absolutely. But hantavirus? That's a disease for hikers who disturb old rodent nests in remote mountain cabins. Except apparently it isn't anymore. The virus found a new venue. This is the quiet lesson every emerging infectious disease eventually teaches, and the one we keep having to relearn: surveillance gaps are exactly where pathogens thrive. If no one is looking for hantavirus on a ship, no one will find it until the evidence is impossible to ignore. 3 people died in a place built entirely for leisure, from a disease that was supposed to stay in the wilderness. The rodent that carried it aboard had no concept of jurisdictions, health declarations, or passenger manifests. It found a warm space near food. The rest followed from basic biology. The next outbreak will follow from the same logic, not from malice, not from some unprecedented event, just an animal doing what animals have always done, inside a system that simply wasn't looking. Strip away the shock and what remains is almost mundane. A rodent found warmth near food, a virus did what viruses do, and a surveillance infrastructure built around known threats had no answer for the one it wasn't looking for. 3 deaths. A pathogen that belonged, by every prior assumption, somewhere else entirely. A vessel engineered to anticipate norovirus and legionella and fire and capsizing, and not this. The map of known risks is always drawn after the fact, with the borders placed exactly where the last disaster happened. What this outbreak added was one more landmark. What it couldn't add was the one that hasn't happened yet. What strikes us isn't that it happened, it's how cleanly it fits the pattern we already know and keep failing to act on. We build checklists. We fund surveillance for the threats already on the list. We call that preparedness. But a checklist is just a record of prior surprises, and the next one is by definition not on it. We don't think the people who run cruise ship biosecurity were negligent. We think they were rational, and rationality, here, is exactly the problem. So the question we leave you with is this: if the system is working as designed and 3 people still died from a disease that wasn't supposed to be there, what exactly is the system designed for?